wanna know a secret?
Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Captain Tyre from my Tech Feed, and welcome to another episode of the Coding of the Interwebs. And today we're gonna be making our web page look cool. So last time we just made this simple web page. It's nothing too special, just a little bit of text. It's all black, doesn't have any cool styles to it or anything. So today we are gonna be looking at that, and we're gonna be learning something called CSS. So one thing that I forgot to tell you guys in the last episode, well, two things, is that with tags, you see how I left this space here? And how I left this space here instead of putting it right underneath here, and same thing here? What this is called is indenting, which you might know from writing class in like 6th grade. And here what you do is you indent to say, hey, this div class is this div tag is underneath this body tag. So there is, however, now this is not required for all HTML cares. You can throw them all into the same line and it won't care, and it will work just fine. But this is the best coding practice to do this, and all programs do this, and this will help you when you learn more languages later. Now another thing that I forgot to tell you guys about is why we use tags. Now, tags are really useful for just grouping things together, but one of the main things that we'll be using them for is today, when we'll be able to change the way things look based on top of these tags. So, what you want to do is inside of your head here, underneath your head tag, you want to put in a new line, and you want to type in style and tab. That will create a style tag. And what you want to do is you can just get rid of this. This doesn't really matter. And here, now you have your style area. Now this is where you'll put in your CSS, which stands for Cascaded Style Sheet. And that lets you style the way everything looks on your page. So you could change the color of things like this and that kind of stuff, right? So remember when I told you guys that we'll be using this class later? This class thing is what we're going to be using right now. So what we need to do is we need to give it a class name. So in this case, we'll call this one, for example, what should we call it? Hi. Okay, for example. So this class is hi. This div belongs to class hi, which means that we can style this div. So we want to reference this div inside of this style tag. So you may be wondering, how do we do that? Well, we use the class name. Now you could have multiple divs with the class name hi, and what we'll do is we'll just style all of them with the same stuff that we're styling this one div. So instead of here, what we can do is we can say dot div, and then we can and then we can do this, right? So dot div, well, we should probably indent this. As I told you guys earlier, you should always indent, because that says that it's underneath the style tag, right? So what this dot div says is that, hey, I want to well, actually no, not dot div, dot hi. Dot div would say that this is a class, right? So what dot hi does is it says, hey, I want to style everything on this page that contains the class hi, right? So dot hi. So now inside of here, what we can specify is something like, for example, we'll do, what should we do? Background color. So Adam can tell you all your properties if you start doing it, right? So this is called a CSS property. What this is it basically allows you to, it's like something that you can change about an item, like you can style this. So for example, we can change the background color, and by default here is showing inherit, which is the default value, and what that does is make this a background color of whatever its parent is, and the parent is what this is inside of. So this div class hi is inside of body, so make the background color the same as the color of body, right? So here what we can do is we can say we want to make it blue, right? So for example, whatever, and then we open up Firefox right here and we refresh, and boom, you see it's all blue. Now this may not look too well, right? So what we can do is we can change the text color as well, right? So what we can do, so what you can do is just color colon, well, if I was typing, color colon blue, right? And what this will do is, well, color colon blue, right? And what this will do is it'll change the text color to blue, right? So if we refresh this, well, now you can't see the text. So let's change the color to, well, white, for example, right? And what this will do is we'll now have this, and it will be, hi, this is a paragraph, this is another paragraph, right? Now you remember what, so now I just taught you about classes and how you can style things with classes, right? But what if you want something that has the class hi, but you also want to use a different thing, but you also want to call it hi because it also has to do with hi, right? So you don't want to call it something different, right? So here's something that you can do. So for example, inside the span tag we have this, right? So this is a word, and we want to change the style for this word. What we can do is span, and then we'll do we can do ID, which an ID is kind of like a class, except an ID is like, you can have, it's like a separate version of a class. So you can have class hi, and ID hi is something completely different, but the usage of it is the same. So you can have ID and hi, right? So usually if you'd have something like class hi, this would have the same styling as this div, but since this is an ID hi, it won't. Now you're wondering, how do you use IDs? And when you use a class, you use .hi. So when you use an ID, you use hashtag hi, right? And that's pretty awesome because you can go around tweeting hashtag hi everywhere now. But yeah, so once you have hashtag hi inside of here, what you can do is, for example, we can change color to, let's say, green. And now you see this is green, the background is all blue, right? So, and the text is all white. So we changed this part that says this to green, right? So now what you can do, so this is pretty cool on its own, and there are many cooler things that you can do with this. Like, you might be wondering, wait, why would I just want to randomly shape the background color to blue? I mean, that doesn't seem too interesting and color, right? Now there's one more thing I want to leave you guys with, is inside of background color and color, there's to get a color, right? So I have just been showing you guys this way of doing it, saying blue, white, green, but there's another way to do it. They're called hexadecimal color codes. So if you go to a website called picker.com, you can see here, right? So it'll give you a nice thing that's just like Adobe Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you like to use as your favorite image manipulation program, right? So you can select a color from here, and you want to use it inside a web page, right? So you can just select this, copy it, and, well, let's choose a color that we haven't used, right? So there, and we can copy it, and we can say here inside of our CSS or our style sheet right here, what we can do is we can change our color. What you do is you put hashtag, and then you copy that combination of letters and numbers that you just got, and this is the combination of letters and numbers is called the hexadecimal color code. Well, right now it doesn't have any letters, but it can have letters, and it's called a hexadecimal color code because it uses the hexadecimal number system, which isn't something you need to know about, but you know, just cool information to know. So you can do that, and then you refresh, and now it changed our background color to this same color that we had right here, right? So that's pretty awesome. So I think I'm gonna end it right here, guys. So practice on this, make something that looks cool and is really awesome and looks really amazing, and then maybe you can tell me your CSS scripts down in the description, and your HTML scripts, so I can check them out. And never ever cut the feed of tech.
Wow.